Paleo Runner Podcast is devoted to finding better ways to live, run, train, and eat. I'm your host, Aaron Olson. You can find more information by going to paleorunner.org. If you enjoy the show, please go to iTunes and leave a review. Search for Paleo Runner in iTunes and click ratings and reviews. You can also follow me on facebook.com/runpaleo or on Twitter @runpaleo. I wanted to take a minute to let you know about a product I've been using called 3Fuel. 3Fuel is a sports drink that gives you fat, protein, and carbohydrates to use as a fuel source. Unlike sugary sports drinks, 3Fuel gets absorbed slowly into your bloodstream to give you sustained energy throughout your workout. If you'd like to give it a try, you can get 10% off by using the coupon code 3FOLSON. Go to paleorunner.org and click 3Fuel at the top of the page. If you're listening through the podcast app on iPhone, click the link displayed on the app right now. My guest today is Debbie Potts. Debbie is a personal trainer that focuses on eating real foods to help the body perform optimally. She's an Ironman triathlete and co-host of the Fit Fat Fast podcast. Debbie, thanks so much for being part of the show.
Hey, Aaron. Thanks for having me on.
So, Debbie, tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get interested in the whole aspect of eating more real foods? I mean, aren't the foods that everyone's already eating real foods?
Well, not really if they come out of a package or a box with a big, huge label, right?
Right.
I've been in the fitness industry for about 20 years and started doing Ironman distance triathlons 2001 and started doing marathons before that and long distance cycling events in, I'm feeling old. About 1995, I started racing and doing some long stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just started to really feel the difference of kind of curious of what people told us out there. So eating real food was told to us to eat a bar or gel every hour and keep adding those calories. Same thing with people that aren't exercising, that they should eat small meals every few hours to keep the metabolism going. So all these different theories that were told from mainstream nutrition, I was always thinking twice about it, going, how does that make sense? If I want to lose weight, how am I supposed to lose weight if I keep eating? And I just didn't really get it. And I just started challenging the theories out there and thinking about it. And I got into heart rate training years ago with Sally Edwards. Right when they came out, I taught heart zone training with her. She kind of was the beginning of heart zones and setting up different zone training back in, I don't know, maybe that was late 90s. And started learning about being metabolically efficient there with her, and then working with Maffetone, then Mark Allen, all about the lower heart rate training. So that's more the training side of it, being using fat for fuel. So I thought, well, why am I going to eat all this sugar and have a bar when I'm supposed to be using fat for fuel? It just didn't really make sense.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what do you mentioned that term metabolic efficiency. What do you think the major benefits are of using fat for fuel? I mean, what's wrong with just taking a bunch of goose? Is there any reason that you wanted to get away from that?
Well, I think it depends what type of events you're training for, right? Like if I'm training for an endurance event as a marathon or maybe 100-mile plus cycling event or Ironman distance race, we're taught to teach people and coach people that we want to be in those heart rates where we're burning mostly fat for fuel. So we're training by heart rate, trying to build up that aerobic engine and everything along with that to be more metabolically efficient where we're using fat for fuel. But what happens if you are burning fat and you keep tossing down all this processed engineered food as a bar, or you're throwing down gel and other stuff in a package every hour? So it didn't really work for me because I felt like, okay, I'm eating this, but I'm not even hungry. And then I would go into racing and try to eat all this food. And when I was doing triathlons, I was doing Ironmans, I'd be kind of throwing up while I did the bike ride. And I got just used to it that, well, I don't need that. So my stomach isn't able to digest that food. So I would end up just doing water and drinking mostly water and liquid calories when I was doing Ironman racing. And I realized myself that I can't do all these calories. I can't do 500 calories an hour. And I did better with less.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really interesting that we're told to, during training, to listen to our bodies, not push too much. But when it comes to nutrition, we have to override all of our body's natural functions. And even if we're not hungry, we need to take, 3 or 4 goos an hour to keep our blood sugar so high. So it seems counterintuitive. In one area, we're supposed to listen to our bodies, but then when it comes to nutrition, you just have to take as much sugar as possible.
Yeah. So you want to be using fat for fuel, but what happens if you throw sugar into that? maybe we need that slow release sugar that will, we need a little bit every hour, but you don't need to be only eating sugar and throwing yourself out of that fat burning loop, that you're going into that blood sugar roller coaster. And then you have a lot of times people end up having to take more sugar in because they have that low and then they get the high and then they end up having stomach problems. And they're always wondering, okay, what's wrong? I'm racing and I'm throwing up or having IBS problems every race. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And I hear that all the time. And, I was just at Ironman Hawaii 2 weeks ago, and you hear the same things. And you look at what people are eating when they're racing, and I look at what people are eating when they're just hanging out, training, and before the race, they're eating junk food. And that's another subject, but people think they can eat what they want because they're doing long distance events and training. So they forget about they're feeding their body nutrition and that proper fuel that's coming in. So you get garbage in, you wonder what happens after that.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons why I switched to a little bit higher fat diet is the stomach issues. When you're running long distances, you don't want to have any issues going on with your stomach. You want to be feeling, like you're at your best and like that there's nothing going on with your stomach. But a lot of times if you're taking those fake foods, it can cause some upset.
Yeah, that's what I interviewed, by the way, the other week when I was in Ironman, I interviewed bonk breakers, and I got to get John to post that for our Fit Fat Fast. Mm-hmm. I interviewed Barnana, and those other ones were non-food related, but at the Race Expo. And it was a great story that bonk breakers and Barnana, they were both they're racing and they wanted real food and there was nothing out there. So they went to their kitchen and started coming up with a bonk breaker bar, and took them a while to get it to market. And then the Barnana product, that's what he ate growing up in South America. And just to have that when he moved to San Diego and started doing ITU races, he wanted to have real food. So luckily there's some other people that are on the same page. If we can get, more products out in the market that are easy to grab, or, there's a lot of food we can make ourselves, but, I don't know about you. I'm not really good at cooking. I'm busy working and I want to go fit my workouts in. I don't want to sit in the kitchen, but so you want something that's convenient, easy to grab, that's good for you food.
So you mentioned that bonk breaker. Is that something that you would be able to use if you're trying to burn fat for fuel?
Yeah, it's gluten-free. They don't have soy. It's made with mostly real food, and they have it. It's on the Ironman course now. So they're the energy bar of the course. Unfortunately, the drink is the Perform drink mix that bothers a lot of people, but that bar is a good option, I think, so you don't have to carry, when you're racing, you don't want to have to carry all your gear. But I like bonk breakers. I actually tell people to get the raw Revolution bar that I'll have sometimes on a long training day.
Okay.
But what's interesting when you're training, I don't know how long you go for your workouts, but if you're training 2-3 hours and you get used to being metabolically efficient and being fat adapted, do you eat anything? I'm usually pretty good.
I eat small amounts. Like I use a product called 3 Fuel that has fat. It has like coconut milk, grass-fed whey protein, and a little bit of starch. And that I'll like on a 20 miler, I might take 200 to 400 calories of that. Mm-hmm. How about you?
I heard about that on your podcast. That sounds great. I'd like to try that. I've been using UCAN the past year. We've done some 50K trail runs and marathon and my Ironmans. We've been using that super slow starch generation UCAN.
Okay.
Trying that out. But yeah, I know there's a couple others out in the market. I think it'll grow as more people are starting to talk about it more. Unfortunately, It's just on podcasting. It's the underground news. But I think, more athletes, if we can, I think with why you have a podcast too, same as myself, is that we want to help teach people getting out of the mainstream nutrition and mainstream information you get there in the triathlon magazines and running magazines, that the nutrition and training and everything is a lot different. It could better.
Yeah. So, it seems that there's a certain amount of carbohydrates that are required for some of these long distance events. Have you kind of figured out like the right amount that's good for you in your marathons and triathlons? And, how do you gauge how much to take in? Do you go by feel, or what do you do?
I go by feel. We kind of do what they call safe starches for dinner, usually the night before, and have some I like sweet potatoes and have a little bit more carbs in my meal the day before a big race or a big training event. And then during a long event, I will have, if I'm just weekday, like if it's just 2 hours, I'm good with just water. Maybe I like to use Noon, some type of electrolyte tablet in there, and I'll use that if it's hotter. And for fuel, I've been using UCAN, and if I need a bar, if I feel like I'm getting hungry, and I want some food, and I'm like, we're going for this 20-mile hike trail run this weekend, and I'll probably take some the raw Revolution bars. And I don't really count the grams. I do pieces. I'll break a bar up into 4 pieces and have it throughout the time. So it's just a slow release, I guess, fuel.
Mm-hmm. So do you think it's important to include healthy fats in your daily diet if you're trying to become metabolically efficient?
Oh, for sure. I do believe that you can't just change the way you're fueling when you work out. I try to tell that to clients that I'm coaching, that we have to work on your day-to-day eating plan just for life, that it's not a diet, but it's a new style of eating. It's a lifestyle that we're going to change people. And I do this with a 21-day challenge I have. Then I've been coaching people online just 30 days and just help them get rid of the processed foods and add more healthy fats, eat more vegetables, and have moderate protein. Mm-hmm. So I think the ratio is a little different for everyone. Some people can tolerate a little more carbs. Not everyone has to be the super low carb, below 50 grams a day. Some people a little bit more depending on their activity level as well. I think it makes a difference. And I usually can tell people if they're recording their food down for me that how long are you full? Because if I eat a breakfast with good amount of fat, maybe like I make eggs and avocado and have some pasture butter on it, or the day put some olive oil, and then I'm full for hours after that, right? If you have a little more fat in there, you end up eating less, and I don't have those cravings, and I feel more that satiated feeling.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned there that you do a 21-day challenge. What does that involve?
It evolved over the last 4 years. I own a fitness studio in Bellevue, Washington, and it started with 30-day challenge. It's always been kind of evolved into 30 days to 21 days because 3 weeks is just easier for a lot of people to commit to than 30 days is somehow they kind of all slough off at the end. So I think 21 days to teach people just to get rid of the common food allergens and eat real food. So I have them try to take out grains, gluten, soy, peanuts, corn, and then ideally if you take out alcohol and caffeine, but just kind of really go to teaching people how to eat more vegetables as their meals, adding more of the healthy fats because we're so fat phobic. Mm-hmm. And as you probably know yourself, that everyone is into healthy grains, not fat. And that's kind of my background. I grew up eating, I think, all carbohydrates because I did not eat protein. I didn't like I'm not a big animal meat person. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't eating any fat because I grew up being told fat is bad. So I always did no fat at all. And so it's hard for me, not hard for me, but it's hard for people that I'm helping to realize they're the kind of same as I've been in the past to how to have fat in your diet, healthy fats, and teach people what are healthy fats, that not all fats are bad. Mm-hmm. They're not evil.
So you said you're not a big meat person. What do you use in place of meat, or do you feel that you don't need it maybe?
Well, I'm trying to eat more animal meat, just some good grass-fed. It's more just I've been since I was 12 years old, and just I blame it on Kentucky Fried Chicken, a bad childhood experience that I don't eat meat because only thing I can remember what triggered me from grossing out at meat is eating a KFC chicken drumstick and looking at these white, sinewy veins, and so not to gross everybody out, but that's kind of what changed me, and so now I'm trying to eat more chicken and eat fish and I wish I did eat more because I'm always deficient in iron and I need more. It's just a mentally tough change.
Yeah.
And I think everyone needs more vegetables in our diet. It's hard to eat enough to get all the nutrition we need. So I try to get like a big, huge lunch. I usually run over to Whole Foods in Bellevue and get a big old salad and put some chicken and some feta cheese on it or something. And that will be good for me for the rest of the day and something light for dinner.
Mm-hmm. Okay. If you're looking to try to get some iron from an animal source, you might want to look into desiccated liver.
I have that in the cabinet.
You have that? Okay. Yeah, that's great. It's just full of vitamins, vitamin A, iron, and some other trace minerals. So that's been working for you?
Thanks for reminding me. I've been on these supplements in the past few months. I need to put that out of the cupboard. Anything that's in the cupboard, I tend to forget. So it has to be on the counter to remind me to take it. Mm-hmm. But that was what I tried doing to get the liver, the benefits from that, because I've just read so much good things about it. I'm not going to eat sweetbreads and liver. So that was a good background.
Yeah.
Tablet form.
How long does it take for your clients to make this transition to becoming, fat burners, more metabolically efficient?
A lot of people do really well in the 21 days and they try to do it. Everyone loses weight that needs to lose weight, or maybe they're just doing it for health reasons, because I think it's great for people to do even if you don't need to lose 10 or more pounds. So they take that 21 days, and some people are good and they'll keep going on their own, and other people will do the program again, or I do it one-on-one with clients, and I have people that don't even live here that I'll meet with, and I find it a little bit better one-on-one than in the past. When I do a group challenge, I'll put people in teams and they have to email each other every day what they're eating and be accountable and share recipes, and that really works well. If we have a big group like in the fall or in January, February, we'll do one. The rest of the year, I find just a smaller groups works well. And then sometimes people that need a little bit more accountability and a little more guidance, they continue with me for another month or so. Okay. And then once they get the hang of it, they're really well. Some people that, slip back into old habits, they can just get back into it and eat healthy. And I tell people it's that 80-20% of the time, which kind of can get stretched. I think like once, not more than once a week, but maybe a couple times a month or once a month, you have a night that you have a birthday party or something. Maybe you're going to do something off the list that doesn't make you feel good. But what I have people do when they cheat, so to speak, I have them journal what they feel. Because a lot of times people feel headachy, they feel bloated the next day. I said, notice how you feel and write that down what you're sharing with me, because that's a little more motivator for at least myself, not to have something that's going to make me have stomach pain the next day and feel awful. So you realize, okay, that food that I thought was my favorite food and a reward, and I'm, sacrificing, cheating on it, doesn't really taste as good anymore. And it doesn't give me that sense of satiety, and it doesn't make me feel good. So usually people can break the habit that way.
Right. So will this metabolic efficiency help a person run or cycle or swim faster, or is it just help you to feel better on the course? What do you see as the benefits?
When I was in Hawaii the other week, I really wanted to go interview a lot of the athletes, and I know Tani Prazak was trying to do that, and it'd be a good study to see how people feel. I find working with my athletes that people do feel better. I think you recover faster after workout. Maybe you don't feel the stomach problems if you're racing, because you're not having so much sugar in your system. And, a lot of that sugar, and you read the labels of a lot of those sport products, they're not real food. It's that engineered food. And I think once people get off of that, they realize how much healthier they feel. And so I guess that would make their performance improve, because they're able to have more energy and they're able to stay in that fat burning mode if they're not putting in all this junk into their body. Okay.
So can you give me an example of some foods that you would eat on a daily basis when you're trying this kind of metabolic efficiency type of diet?
So for me, I work kind of weird hours because I train clients. So I'm out the door at 5 a.m. and I'm training clients. So sometimes I prefer not to eat them, but I'll make food and take it with me. So I made eggs, and usually I do avocado, but I'm just sad to say I just got a food test results of allergy tests back last night. I'm not allowed avocados for 6 months. So that's usually my go-to food is avocados. So now I've got to figure out a new plan. I would do, because I leave to work so early, so it's hard, but I usually have a big salad at lunch and get some cabbage and arugula and kale and mix that up, different lettuces and some vegetables, toppings, and then pour olive oil on top. And then I make a big lunch. I'm really not that hungry for dinner time. It's just usually something light. Last night I just had a bowl of spinach with some olive oil on top and sea salt because it was late. And then other nights I'll have soup, and we've been making soup. Now it's fall.
Okay.
My other good go-to food if I'm going to go exercise is my chia seed pudding. I always like to make, because I can't go eat a big salad and then go for a run. So my work's in the afternoons, and that doesn't really work for me. I had to have a salad and then go work out. So if I can go home or bring it with me to work, I soak chia seeds in water, and then I put some almond butter in there and throw some slivered nut and put that in the fridge and kind of make it a pudding. Sometimes cinnamon inside. It's all good.
Okay. What do you have coming up next that you're training for?
I had to take some time off this year, so I'm kind of making a comeback. I had adrenal fatigue, I found out in May, stage 3 adrenal exhaustion. So I had to cancel out doing Hanu, Half Ironman, and Ironman Canada, and I was planning to do Ironman Hawaii. So I'm just kind of rebuilding now and coming back stronger, I hope, next year. So I am just looking ahead to next year. I am still going to attempt this 50K North Face trail run we've done the past 4 years in San Francisco. That's first weekend in December. And I don't know if you trail run at all, but that's like my favorite trail run. It's just beautiful, Mill Valley and the Dipsy Stairs that people, I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's just amazing scenery. So I'm not quite in shape probably to run the whole way as I normally would, but it's a good hike.
So how have you been able to deal with that adrenal fatigue? What have you done to combat that?
I have it started kind of treatment in May, and I just had to cut out workouts 30 to 40 minutes was my long workouts. So I just switched kind of triathlon training and marathon training to that shorter distance, and then I just did strength training and just tried yoga only for a month and just had to bring it all down and work on chilling out a little bit more, not being go, go, go. So that was a little change for my lifestyle habit I'm used to. Mm-hmm. And then I'll do Hanu half Ironman next June, and then some other halves next year. I'm coaching people for Lava Man Triathlon in March in Hawaii. And then I probably won't do Ironman distance. I'm in Canada, so I'm thinking 2015. And then I try to do Ironman Hawaii then that year.
Cool. Well, Debbie, it's been really interesting having you on the phone today, learning more about metabolic efficiency and everything that you do. Where do you recommend people go to find out more about you?
I have a website, fitnessforwardstudio.com, and on Facebook, it's Fitness Forward or Debbie Smith Potts it's under. So I'm trying to post information on there. We also have our Fit Fat Fast podcast that I co-host and trying to put some more stuff out there on training for off-season training. Another thing I wanted to throw in about metabolic efficiency, the big part of the exercise part I didn't get to mention was doing the treadmill test. So we didn't talk about that. So maybe another time.
Maybe you could talk about that for a few minutes.
Well, the big part of metabolic efficiency for exercise, we talked mostly about nutrition, but the other part is your exercise training. So not only training by heart rate and building up that aerobic engine, and especially off season, I think it's really important for people to find a place near them that you can go get a treadmill test. That we use New Leaf. It's a metabolic efficiency equipment that you get a face mask on. It measures your VO2. Estimated VO2, but it's mostly we're looking at your anaerobic threshold, your metabolic crossover point, where the point is where your fat usage drops down and your carbohydrate usage goes up. So that's where we're looking at. And then I can tell people what heart rate ranges should you train around, where you're burning the most fat for fuel, and where your tempo workouts would be based on where your RQ value is, your ratio of what we're looking at to tell what fuel you're using. But the RQ value as 1.0, it's only carbohydrates for fuel. If you're 0.90, that's when the fat drops down and the carbohydrates go up. And so 0.90 around there is usually people's tempo numbers. So I can figure that out. And then I can figure out their speed workout, which would be anaerobic threshold or above. So then it's a little bit more individualized.
Okay. And so then you find out heart rates that correspond with those levels and you train at those? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we can train them so they're teaching them how to utilize more fat. Some people are really inefficient at using fat for fuel, so might set them up in a different program based on those results.
I've tried using a heart rate monitor in the past with my Garmin, and I often get erratic readings. It's a lot of times higher at the beginning than it is at the end. Have you ever had problems with heart rate monitors?
Well,
do you have a heart rate monitor you'd recommend?
I like the Garmin. The polar heart rate monitors were always doing that to me. They take a little longer to get connected, but what brand do you use?
I have a Garmin.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I use
could have just
Garmin
been that
5.
a one-off, something wrong with that heart rate monitor. But
you can reset your heart rate, your connection to the heart rate strap, and it will, and it will reconnect. So maybe it's not reading your heart rate monitor.
Okay, I'll try that. I just wanted to say thanks so much for taking the time today to talk with me and talk with the listeners about the benefits of becoming more fat adapted. So thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. I hope everyone can learn a few things, and we talked a little about nutrition and exercise. So there's lots to it. I think it just takes time, and I think the fall for most people's off season, unless you're running, if you can find some time that you can experiment with it, it really pays off. You'll be faster, your stomach will feel better, you'll lose weight, lean up a lot more. I always found I never could lose weight before, so I think it's teaching your body to use fat for fuel, and you'll lean up, and it'll definitely will pay off.
You've been listening to another episode of Paleo Runner Podcast. For more information, go to paleorunner.org. Thanks for listening.